right, folks. We're back. We're back with the Truth Attack. Okay, we are the Liberty Works Radio Network, and we do need the support of the members of the listening audience to keep the broadcast network operating. So, if you enjoy the shows, the information, the discussions, the lectures, and the guests and the hosts on the other shows on the network, we sure would appreciate it if you could find your way over to Liberty Works Radio Network. That's all one long string, libertyworksradionetwork.com, and get signed up as a subscribing member, even if it's as little as $15, $20 a month. Every membership helps, and we do need your support to keep the broadcast network operating. So, there you go. And if you want to get fully informed on the maladministration and the unconstitutional fraud that has been perpetrated on the American people under the guise and pretense and in the name of income tax, you gotta head over to taxfreedom.com and start reading, because the gig is up. And the game is just about over for the IRS, the DOJ, the lower courts, and the federal income tax, which has been a constitutional fraud since World War II. And if you know anyone that needs help answering IRS correspondence or answering the Department of Justice in court, send them over to irszoom.com, where you can get help answering IRS administrative letters and answering the Department of Justice in court. So, taxfreedom.com to get educated, irszoom.com to get help. And if you know anyone that is in trouble and needs help dealing with the IRS, tell them to go over and get one of the $30, $40, or $50 letters and answer the IRS. Because you need to answer the IRS, so you create a record of de facto default that they use to run over you. But if you answer all of their correspondence, it's you that can produce the written record in court that shows who's been applying the law and who's been violating it. So, there you go. Taxfreedom.com to get educated, irszoom.com to get help. Tell your friends, neighbors, relatives, business associates, everyone to tune into the Liberty Works Radio Network to get educated on the constitutional republic. It's not a democracy. It is a democratic form of government in the sense that we have a system of one man, one vote. But it's not a democracy because the majority doesn't rule. The law rules both the majority and the minority equally. The majority doesn't rule. That's the difference between a constitutional republic and a democracy. The founding fathers hated democracy because historically, democracies have devolved into anarchy, chaos, and collapse just as soon as the people realize they can vote themselves the treasury. And that's what happens. The government goes bankrupt and the whole system collapses in anarchy, chaos, violence, and ultimately revolution. So that's what the Democratic Party has become about. Because look at what's going on today out there. Protest, no kings. Where's the king? Nobody protested when King Biden shut down the wall, opened the border, took off the gates, and started flying illegal aliens in. Nobody objected when King Biden stopped the Keystone construction of the pipeline and jacked the price of oil. Nobody objected when Biden signed 100 executive orders transforming the entire society into a liberal collapse. Nobody objected when the Democrats played autocrat. And now Trump's enforcing the law, doing exactly what he said he would do, tossing out the illegal aliens, attacking the criminal cartels, promoting more oil and gas production, which has resulted in what? The price of oil is now $58 a barrel instead of the $90 Joe gave us. Gasoline is falling below $3 for the first time in 4 years, $3 a gallon. The inflation rate is below 3% in just 7 months of Trump. Dropped below 3%. Biden had it up above 5 for almost his whole term. So you've got to close the border. I think border crossings last week numbered like 12. A dozen people tried to cross. The whole world's gotten the message. No more open border. You come illegal, you go back. Now let's talk about that a little bit. Let's read Title 8, Section 1324. Bringing in and harboring certain aliens. A. Criminal penalties. 1A. Any person who, knowing that a person is an alien, brings to or attempts to bring to the United States in any manner whatsoever such person at a place other than a designated port of entry or place other than as designated by the Commissioner, regardless of whether such alien has received prior official authorization to come to, enter, or reside in the United States, and regardless of any future official action which may be taken with respect to such alien. So it's a crime, knowing that a person is an alien, to bring or attempt to bring them in. 2, knowing or in reckless disregard of the fact that an alien has come to, entered, or remains in the United States in violation of law, transports or moves or attempts to transport or move such alien within the United States by means of transportation or otherwise in furtherance of such violation of law. 3, knowing or in reckless disregard of the fact that an alien has come to, entered, or remains in the United States in violation of law, conceals, harbors, or shields from detection, or attempts to conceal, harbor, or shield from detection such alien in any place, including any building or any means of transportation. So it's illegal to bring them in, it's illegal to help them stay here, it's illegal to move them, it's illegal to conceal them, and 4, encourages or induces an alien to come to, enter, or reside in the United States, knowing or in reckless disregard of the fact that such coming to, entry, or residence is or will be in violation of law. Or 5, engages in any conspiracy to commit any of the preceding acts, or aids or abets the commission of any of the preceding acts, shall be punished as provided in subparagraph B. Okay, so here you go. It's illegal and a crime to bring them in, to keep them here, to shelter, to aid and abet, to hide, to transport, to house. It is absolutely illegal, unconstitutional for them. Well, not unconstitutional, but it's a crime to aid and abet the aliens. And here's the penalties. A person who violates subparagraph A for each alien in respect to whom such violation occurs, in the case of a violation of A1 or V1, or in the case of violation of subparagraph A2, 3, or 4, in which the offense was done for the purpose of commercial advantage or private financial gain, be fined under Title 18, imprisoned not more than 10 years, or both. 2, in case of a violation of subparagraph A2, 3, 4, or 5.2, be fined under Title 18, imprisoned not more than 5 years, or both. 3, in the case of violation of subparagraph A1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, during and in relation to which the person causes serious bodily injury to or places in jeopardy the life of any person, be fined under Title 18, imprisoned not more than 20 years, or both. 4, in the case of a violation of subparagraph A1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, resulting in the death of any person, be punished by death or imprisoned for any term of years or for life, fined under Title 18, or both. Okay, so it's some pretty serious stuff. Aiding and abetting, transporting, housing, conspiracy to do such. This statute is being violated by all of the Democrats, politicians, protecting ICE in the Democrat cities. I mean, not protecting, but protecting illegal aliens and attacking ICE and helping, aiding and abetting illegal aliens, to say all of these people could be charged easily under conspiracy to help aliens do all of these things. By interfering with the federal government's removing them They violate the statute. Every single person out there could be charged under 81324, conspiracy to aid and abet. That's what's going on. The whole thing is to attack ICE, keep illegal aliens here, because that needs to be, the Democrats think, their new voice, their new branch of voters. That's what's going on. That's what's really going on. Is the Democrats are bringing in new voters because they're losing American citizens as voters because the Democrat policies are insane. And that's why you don't see anyone out there in the streets advocating for any Democratic policy. They're only protesting Donald Trump and the policy that he got elected on, cleaning up the streets of America, removing the criminals and deporting the criminal illegal aliens that Biden let in to the tune of what, some 12 million illegal aliens got let in? And Trump, of course, got elected to remove them. American people didn't want their budget dollars, state or federal, being spent housing, feeding, caring for illegal aliens. Those monies should be spent on American citizens, on our veterans. That money could potentially be used to address the homeless situation, which I admit is a nightmare because you got 1/3 of those people are on drugs, 1/3 of those people are literally insane, and only 1/3 of those people are in real economic hardship and capable to be helped, because you can't help the crazy and you can't help the drug addled. They just take the money and go right back to the drugs. And if they're crazy, well, if they're crazy, right? And you know that's true. So the homeless situation is a function of drug addiction, mental illness, and economic hardship. And it's hard to find the 1/3 economic hardship because they're not just hanging out downtown in the gutter doing drugs. They're actually trying to find a solution and a way out. So they're not in the places where the money is distributed to help the drug addled and the insane, because there's no work there to actually rebuild your life, and there's no life in government dependence, which is really what it all comes down to. Government wants to create dependence so that it can rule, because people who are dependent upon the government will be docile and obedient. They'll behave. They'll allow themselves to be enslaved to service the never-ending debts of the corrupt administration, corrupt government, the unconstitutional operation of our money and our currency. As goes the currency, so goes the fate of the nation and the quality of life of its people. Without a strong currency, your life will be, well, hey, ask folks in the Depression, ask the folks in South Africa, ask the folks in Germany how it went, ask the folks in the South how it went for them when the Confederate dollar collapsed. We have their own examples here and everywhere. You overprint the fiat currency and you destroy everything about your society by destroying the currency that it uses as the medium of exchange to conduct transactions. Without a viable medium of exchange, business cannot be conducted, and the only thing left is warfare or revolution. So, they've made a mess. They don't want to address it. All of the protests are grounds for aiding and abetting. And what's being said by the governors and the mayors is actually criminal. So Fed should get after them, the Justice Department. All right, I hear the first commercial break coming up. This is Thomas Freed on the Liberty Works Radio Network. This is the Truth Attack Hour. We'll be back in 5 with more. Okay, this is Thomas Freed on the Liberty Works Radio Network. This is the Truth Attack Hour, and let's just get right back into this. Okay, so what are we doing here? There we go. Okay, so let's just get right back into this. When we left, I was talking about how the Democratic positions being announced by the governors and the mayors of opposing ICE are virtually violations of law. Title 8, Section 1324, which I read to you. I'm sorry that was a little quick, but the gist of it is bringing someone in, knowing they're here, helping them, housing them, transporting them, aiding and abetting their staying here illegally in any way is criminal and can be punished all the way up to death, depending upon what happens within the crime. If there's an injury, if there's a death, the penalties go all the way up to the death penalty. So there is a mechanism to shut down this nonsense. Every single one of the sanctuary cities, the people that voted to be a sanctuary city, are all guilty of this. The board, the administrator, the mayor, whoever put that policy in place, they can all be charged under this law. Sanctuary city is aiding and abetting in violation of federal law. Go arrest them all. Put them on trial. Let them settle. So, of course, the other news story right now in America is the government shutdown. And of course, I've been talking since they shut down about how this is an opportunity for Trump to simply get rid of the unconstitutional departments and agencies. And there's a bunch of them, right? Where's the constitutional authority for the Department of Energy? Doesn't exist. Where's the constitutional authority for the Department of Education? Doesn't exist. Where's the constitutional authority for the Department of Agriculture? Doesn't exist. Commerce, well, you can argue interstate commerce clause, but do we really need the government to manage interstate commerce now? You don't think the states and the companies are on top of that? Yeah, I think so. You'd probably get rid of commerce. We don't need that. They're doing just fine in commerce. The stock market's at an all-time high, despite the federal government, not because of the Commerce Department's assistance. How about labor? Well, the Labor Department's been lying to you for 4 years about 2 million jobs that just disappeared. Turns out it was all made up. Gee, they're doing a great job, aren't they? Why don't we get rid of the Labor Department? Why don't we get rid of the Labor Department and just use the quarterly employer withholding reports? That tells you how many people are working and how much money's being raised. You don't need the Labor Department. You can get this all from the Internal Revenue Service, right? How about HUD? Where's the constitutional authority for federal housing? Outside of Washington, D.C. and the forts. Doesn't exist. Transportation? Doesn't exist. Environmental protection? Doesn't exist. Occupational safety? Doesn't exist. None of these departments are constitutionally authorized. And part of the reason why we are so overwhelmed with federal bureaucrats involving our daily lives and activities is because of the existence of these agencies, which have usurped the authority of the states and are trying to administer federal law in the states as though the people there were subject to it. EPA's got no business in the states. Navigable waterways is the only environment the federal government is constitutionally authorized to be involved with. Air pollution across state lines, that's litigation in state court in federal court between two states. It's not for the federal government to dictate policy on energy, agriculture, education. The fact that the government has watered down the education is why your students can't multiply 7 times 4. Or count money at the cash register. Or know how many months are in the year. Or who was involved in the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, or World Wars I or II. They can't even tell you who was involved in the Korean War and the Vietnam War. Why? Because the federal government took over education and watered down the standards. And nobody gets fired. They just push through kids who can't read. There is not one child in the city of Baltimore that reads at grade level in the public schools. Not one. And none of them can do math at grade level either. The public schools are creating educational idiots. Why? Because the federal government wants idiots. They become dependent upon government. Why? Because they're idiots. They can't hold a job. They can't count. They don't know English. They don't know history. Nobody can employ that. They're destined. They're destined for the dole. Stand in line waiting for your pittance to be doled out for the rest of your life. No spiritual fulfillment at all. Serve the body's needs by serving and obeying the institutions. Become part of the beast and the machinery that grinds the human spirit to dust into oblivion. Is that what the beast is? The institutions of man that deny the spiritual potential of each individual man. Serve God or serve man and his government and his institutions? Which will it be? Which will it be? You can't serve two masters. And the institutions of government want you to serve them because that's how they prosper and enjoy a higher quality of life than the others who are cast into service to those that rule. But you're not supposed to have rulers in America. You're supposed to have representatives. This idea of someone staying in Congress for 45 years as a career is absolutely part of the problem. You end up with a dementia-ridden idiot trying to run the country, being completely usurped, or rather having his authority usurped by the small socialist cabal that operates around him. Gee, I think we just saw that, didn't we? Isn't that what happened with Biden? The auto pen was the president for 4 years, and who knows who was running it, because Biden doesn't even know what he signed. He sat there and told Johnson, Speaker Johnson, I didn't cut off gas and oil. We're going to propose it. We're looking into it. No, Joe, you cut it off. He didn't even know what he had signed. Of course not. So you got all these unconstitutional operations that through the federal monopoly on currency have taken over and usurped the state's authority in these areas, because the states don't have access to the currency. But the bureaucrats do, and for the last 60 years under Chevron doctrine, they've been allowed to write their own law. So the socialist judges of the circuit court set the bureaucracy at you with the ability to write their own law to steal your money and rule your daily lives in the states. It's time we cut this down. There's no constitutional authority for any of it. They want to shut the government? Every week the government shut. Trump should get rid of another agency. Start with energy, move on to education, and then do agriculture. Just shut them down. Fire everyone. There's no constitutional authority for the agency. You can't justify its existence. It was made up out of thin air in an emergency they made up. Education was started in 1979 under Jimmy Carter. His whole administration was an emergency. Energy was 1977. Oh, that was Carter and the oil crisis with Iran. And agriculture was 1862, the Civil War. Abraham Lincoln needed food to feed the Union troops, so he created the agriculture department to round up crops across the North to feed the Union Army. So we need to get rid of these agencies. We should get rid of all the agencies, take their collective budget across the board, slash it 10%, and distribute those funds to the states to administer in all of these areas. agriculture, commerce, labor, housing, transportation, environment, occupational safety, energy, education. These are all state areas. The state should be prioritizing the spending. The state capital should be spending the money in the state. All of the money for these things should not be spent out of Washington, D.C. by a monopolistic Congress that only enriches the people around Washington, D.C. The contractors, the lobbyists, and the foreign multinational corporations that win the contracts. Why not let the states let the contracts in every single state so that each state can have an economic boom coming out of its capital instead of only the federal government having an economic boom coming out of Washington, D.C. Because they don't produce anything in Washington, D.C. The economic boom is just politicians getting rich and contractors getting rich from corruption. Inside deals, excessive payments, and exaggerated expenses to pad the billing. Let's spread the money around. Take it away from the federal government. Slash those agencies. Get rid of the bureaucracy that's destroying America and socializing the country under a central government that has no idea how to plan for 50 different demographics in 50 different states with different programs designed to work with the specifically different demographics we have. Like, for example, do you think the same programs will work in Wyoming as do in Chicago, Miami, and New York City? If you do, you haven't thought it through. Wyoming has substantially different demographical issues to deal with a distributed rural population as opposed to the centralized urban populations of the cities. You need a different plan. The federal government isn't capable of doing it. Only the states that actually have to deal with and live in these circumstances understand how to deal with them in their state to best address these issues. For education, agriculture, energy, transportation, housing, labor, commerce. These are not central planning issues, and they shouldn't be, because when they're central planned by the government, they are screwed up. Absolutely screwed up. And they benefit no one, and they harm everyone by increasing the arbitrary and capricious use of authority by the government to rule rather than to represent. Because that's what politicians want to do, right? They don't want to represent, they want to rule. They don't want to be told what to do. They want to tell you what to do. Which basically always starts with, give me your money. And then trust me. Because I talked a real good game on the campaign trail, didn't I? Yeah, it's true. I've been in office 8 months and ain't done anything except keep the money. But hey, trust me. And give me more money. It's going to get better. Yeah, right. Check. And anyone who thinks voting for a socialist is going to fix the problem of it being too expensive to live hasn't looked at what happens when the socialists take over. You're worried about expense? Why don't you worry about whether or not there'll be any meat in the supermarket, or bread, or vegetables? Because the only thing socialism delivers is spam. Think I'm kidding? Look back to World War II. That's what you got. Spam in a can. Everything else was co-opted for the war effort. Government doesn't produce, it destroys, it consumes. Okay, this is Thomas Freed on the Liberty Works Radio Network. I hear that second commercial break coming back. We'll be back in 5 with more, because we're going to talk a little bit about the Clean CR and what's going on with that. Okay, this is Thomas Freed on the Liberty Works Radio Network. This is the Truth Attack Hour, and I'm going to get right back into this government shutdown here in just a moment. But I thought I'd throw this note in first. You know, Donald Trump should have won the Nobel Peace Prize for what he's done here in the 9 months that he's been in office. He really should have. They gave it to the oppositional political leader in Venezuela for opposing socialism there. Yeah, they've been quiet about that for 10 years. All of a sudden, the leader of the opposite socialist movement gets the Nobel. You gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me. There's no peace in Venezuela. The country's a mess. It's deteriorating and falling apart as fast as the socialists can steal everything not nailed down. So Maduro's been a disaster. On the other hand, what has Donald Trump done to win the Peace Prize? Well, let's go through it. On May 10th, he settled the conflict between India and Pakistan, which was threatening to become an actual major war, and both of them are nuclear powers. He got them to sit down and settle it. India and Pakistan, the conflict ended. On June 24th, he settled the conflict between Israel and Iran. Iran's position has been so weakened, they agreed to stop missiling Israel, or it was going to get nasty, wasn't it? They took out their nuclear capabilities to demonstrate the capability, and Iran shut up and sat down and signed. 2 major conflicts settled. On June 27th, he settled the conflict between Rwanda and the Congo. He got those 2 countries to agree to end their war. On July 18th, he settled the conflict between Israel and Syria. Syria stopped supporting attacks on Israel. They ended their war. On July 28th, he ended the conflict between Cambodia and Thailand. On August 8th, he ended the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan. How many people in this country even knew there was a conflict going on in any of these places? It's not part of the news. Biden was doing a wonderful job. There was war breaking out all over the planet. And he just sat there like a lump, unable to exercise any authority at all to bring peace to the world. Complete moron. Kamala Harris is worse. Complete morons. India, Pakistan, Israel, Iran, Rwanda, Congo, Cambodia, Thailand, Israel, Syria, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and now Gaza, Hamas, and Israel are settled. 7 major conflicts in 9 months, closed and settled under Trump's leadership, guidance, and strong hand. Because you can bet he told every single one of these governments, settle it and cut it out, or I'm going to help the other side. None of them knew which side he was really going to help. So they settled them. 7 major wars, the Nobel Peace Prize. Oh, no, we'll give it to the opposition leader in Venezuela, where there is no peace. There's just opposition. Absolutely insane. So there you go. You lift them out. 7 different conflicts settled by Trump. He should have won the Nobel Peace Prize. The people on that committee should be ashamed of themselves. Just ashamed. Absolute dirtbags. Absolute dirtbags. Trump derangement syndrome, TDS. There it is. As live and as real as it gets. The whole UN. TDS. Mental insanity. Denial of reality and fact. Just like the whole Democrat Party. Remember, the border's closed. There's no crime. Illegal aliens, they commit less crimes than Americans. Yeah, if you don't count the 10 million drug transactions every day being committed by illegal aliens selling the drugs, but not being reported. because both parties to the transaction are criminal and it happens in the subway or the alley. So all of these criminal transactions aren't reported. That's why illegal aliens seem or appear to have less criminal violations. And yeah, I will admit, it's a small group of them that are perpetrating most of the violations. But it doesn't change the fact that millions of criminal violations are being committed by illegal aliens. And the statistics just don't show it because they're not reported. But they are crimes, and they are there, and they're the problem in the city, aren't they? Because these are the cartels and the gang members committing the crimes, running the streets, gunning down the police and the regular citizens, and turf wars to control the money flow from the cartels' illegal drug sales, which for some reason the Democrat administrations don't want to shut down and allowed to go on for 4 years under Biden. So, okay, let's get back to chat a little bit about why the government is shut down. The government, of course, is shut down because the Obamacare subsidies are due to expire in December. And the Democrats don't want to let them expire. If you remember, Obamacare was rammed through the Congress without a single Republican voting for it. This was in 2010, and Obamacare came into place, and they put in place all these subsidies to carry the program because it's financially inviable unless you get enough people in, and the government funds it. And of course, you had two Supreme Court rulings, one that rewrote the penalty as a tax. Show me tax imposed or liability. What a lie. John Roberts going off on judicial legislation, writing his own law. And of course, the other ruling was that the federal government could be the exchange, when the law specifically was supposed to be an exchange set up by the state, so it wouldn't be a central planning system. So anyway, they ended up with a central planning system funded by the Obamacare subsidies. And they jammed another $1 trillion of subsidies into the hands of the insurance companies for COVID. And now those subsidies are expiring at the end of this year, and the whole Obamacare program is not financially viable unless it's subsidized by the government. But now that the Republicans are in charge, they don't want to subsidize a failing program that not a single one of them ever voted for. It was all rammed down their throats, so now they're going to let the program end. And the Democrats know that. And there isn't anything they can do about it because there isn't enough of them in the House to oppose it or stop it. The Republicans control the House now and the Senate, but they don't have a 60-vote majority, so they can't do anything they want. So what we have is the current budget expired and the government ran out of money. Now, when that normally happens, what the two parties do is get together to pass a clean CR. CR is a continuing resolution, and a clean CR is a minimal expenditure package that only funds the basic operations of government to keep it operating at the basic levels until a full budget can be passed. And it gives the House and the Senate time to, while the government is operating under the CR, 3 or 4 months, to work out a complete budget. And it's during those negotiations that the politicizing of the budget is involved. A clean CR means there's no political programs in it. It's just pay these people, pay the military, there's no program, there's no money for ICE or oil or energy. It's just a clean CR. It's a minimal spending bill, and the Democrats voted for this exact same clean minimal spending bill to keep the government open and operating like 13 different times as recently as last, I think it was March. Schumer passed a clean CR, and of course he's been under attack by the radical far left socialist wing of the Democratic Party, specifically AOC, and people think that Schumer is afraid AOC is going to primary him for Senate in New York. So he has to cater to the far left, keep the government shut, and insist that the clean CR be loaded with some $350 billion of expense to re-subsidize Obamacare, which is subsidies end in December. And they want those subsidies guaranteed to be continued by the Republicans now as a function of signing a non-clean CR that the Democrats want politicized. Well, that's not the way CRs work. The CRs have been a function of the government for a long time now, 30 years. I think the government's only gotten a budget together once in the last 30 years. So the Clean CR has been a mechanism that both parties have agreed to and used to keep the government operating at bare bones levels while they figure out the full budget for the next year. But the Democrats don't want to do that because they don't think they have the pull or the leverage to get the Obamacare subsidies in a politicized negotiation if they allow the government to reopen under a Clean CR. So they're not. Schumer is not allowing this Clean CR to be passed in the Senate, where they need to get 60 votes to pass it. It passed in the House on a majority. In the Senate, they need 60 votes, apparently, and they can't get 60 votes to pass this Clean CR, an unpoliticized, minimal, bare-bones operating program for the government. And Schumer doesn't want it. He won't allow it. It won't allow it. It has to have $350 billion of Obamacare subsidies guaranteed in the funding before he'll negotiate. Well, that ain't just going to work. No Republicans voted for this. They jammed it down their throats in 2010 and jammed the subsidies in the COVID era. Now, what's happening here is these subsidies, these are not being given to the American people. All of this money, the $1 trillion, was pumped right into the healthcare institutions, the insurers. It's the insurance companies that are getting the money. That's why they're showing profits, because the government is funding their profit, because it's not a viable operation without the government subsidies. It's a failing experiment in giving away healthcare to people who can't afford it and bankrupting the government to do it. And here we are. The government shut down. Democrats won't pass a Clean CR unless there's $350 billion. I've heard $1.3 trillion. I think the true number is $350 billion, $35 billion a year for 10 years, $35 billion and $350 billion. And they want Obamacare to be subsidized because they know it can't last. And they know it's going to be very, very hard to get the Republicans to fund it the way they want it funded, with it's just a straight up free money to the companies offering the insurance policies. But it's trillions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars straight to the institutions, to their bottom line for profit. It's not a good use of the money. It doesn't deliver health care because insurance companies don't deliver health care. They deliver profits to their shareholders. That's the purpose for their existence. If you make them the gatekeepers, they just make sure no doctor ever sees a patient that confronts the doctor with his Hippocratic oath to provide care to a patient in need, regardless of their ability to pay. God forbid! The gatekeeper will never allow anyone who can't pay to see a doctor. It's a business, not a calling. It's been perverted and subverted by allowing the insurance companies to play gatekeeper and take over the business of delivering health to the American people. And their involvement steals, 30% of every dollar? And that's why the costs are up, because the insurances are jacking the cost to make sure they have profits. They're not even the doctors and the nurses. They don't deliver care. They shouldn't be getting money from the government. The government should be funding a network of hospitals and clinics, using scholarships to staff them with doctors and nurses. And that's how you deliver health care, is you build a network of doctors and nurses and facilities that actually deliver health care. Okay, this is Thomas Freed on the Liberty Works Radio Network. This is the Truth Attack Hour. We'll be back next week with more.